Welcome to Making with Laz, and in today's episode, we're going to be discovering how long... So, this video is not only going to be about the Carvera Air, we'll get to that in a couple minutes here, but it's also going to be about failure. So, I've honestly ran into quite a bit of failure throughout these last 24 hours of trying to get the Carvera up and started. A lot of it was probably user error due to me not reading everything properly, and some of it may have been the machine, so we'll get into that shortly. But before we even got into the machine, the first problem I had was with the vacuum. So we have these two couplers that I made for the hose, and I had 6 magnets inside of there, hoping that would be enough, but alas, it was not. So at this point, I could have chose to give up, which is probably where a lot of maker projects end, where you just run into your first roadblock and you think it's too much of an inconvenience, and then you stop. But what I did is, and what you should do if you run into this issue, is just try to persevere over the problem and come up with an alternate solution. Luckily, I still had some of the old hose clamp stuff, so I was able to use that and just directly clamp it on instead of having a quick disconnect without the magnets. Sometimes you overcomplicate stuff and it doesn't work, and sometimes you do and it works well, but in this case, it did not. So perhaps we'll revisit that idea later down the line and make a better version of that, which doesn't have that issue. But for now, let's move on to my failures with the Carvera Air. So the first issue I had wasn't with the machine itself, but the CAM software. So as a preface, I'm using a Mac, so I should probably try it on Windows as well to see if it has the same issue. But pretty much the first issue I have with the software is if you try moving the tab at all, so if like you take the window and drag it, it just crashes the program. So that's pretty fun. The second issue I've had is it doesn't like certain DXF files and it crashes the program as well. So the second one was my fault because I forgot to change over to millimeters for meters. So maybe the file was just too large and it crashed. But it would be nice just saying, or having a pop-up saying the file's too big and we can't use it. So just click cancel and it wouldn't crash the software. And then the way they have the CAM stuff set up. So I've had it where I have created a profile, and then when it goes to do the machining itself, it does something completely different. So the first big issue I had was making my own file. So once I release the video, you'll see the design, but you'll also probably see it in the B-roll here. But when I was making my first file here, instead of cutting where it was supposed to, it decided to crash into the little L bracket on the side. So here's a little clip of that. So yeah, you can just see the Carvera going down and then drilling right into the metal piece right there and then snapping the bit. And then there's me stopping it. So I'm not exactly sure what happened here because when I looked at the CAM software, I thought I had a video of it, but the thing itself thought it was in the middle of the part, not on the edge. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but it was pretty strange. Another issue I had, which was my fault, the first time I tried making my cut, there was a setting for using the axis. So if you're using the little L piece, there's 2 different positions apparently that you can keep it and use it to line your stock up, but I had it in the wrong one. So luckily I caught that one with the outline one, so that didn't cause any issues. I was just really confused on why it was going outside, and then I realized I made that issue, or that problem in the settings of setting up the initial part. But I didn't have that on this one, so it made no sense why it would do that. So the next thing I had an issue with was the CAM. So over here is the file. So I initially had it in the middle of my stock, but when I went to actually put it into the program, it didn't really want to work properly. It would just shift itself over oddly, even with 0 offset. The other issue I had here was, if you can see, I have my depth set to 0.2 millimeters, and then the start height is 0. So realistically, all it should do is cut from the top and take off 0.2 millimeters in depth with a 60-degree V-bit. So if you look at the CAM here, you can watch the simulation. It should just do like a short little cut and then engrave it. It might not be the most engraver-friendly design, but I just wanted to try making my own logo and challenge myself. But as you can see shortly, what ended up happening was something completely different. So here you go. So you can see that it's just zeroing itself off the tool setter, and then it's just making its way over to the position, and it's going to go cut it. And so it makes a nice first pass, which is what I was expecting. And I was like, cool, looks good. And then it keeps going, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll stop, and no, it did not. So I eventually let it just kind of do its thing. That little part broke out, and then I e-stopped it because I was like, okay, this is definitely not what it's supposed to be doing. Because if you saw the cam, it was only supposed to go down 0.2 millimeters, but that thing just cut through a 4 millimeter piece of acrylic, so something was wrong. So I decided to try it again as a sanity check just to see. So I let it cut, and it was pretty much going the same depth. And you'll see that looking at the cam, it's only supposed to be going down 0.2 millimeters, and the cam itself on the computer shows that it's only going down 0.2 millimeters. But you can tell by the actual thing that it's going down a lot deeper. So I'm going to have to do a bit more research into this myself and see where I went wrong and how I can fix this. But that being said, it wasn't all failures. We were able to use the included file that they gave for the base of the acrylic stand, and that turned out pretty well. Besides me kind of messing up with the little saw thing that they gave, it turned out pretty well. But the surface finish isn't the greatest, but I'm thinking that's because we're using a 1-flute end mill compared to a 2-flute one. So overall, you might think that I actually had a poor experience with the Carvera Air, but not necessarily. A lot of it could have just been up to my error, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot about it and making some cool projects that I get to show you down the line. So if you're ever in a rut where your project isn't going as you hoped, perhaps it's a way to reevaluate the project and try to make it better than it was before, like the vacuum not working or my cuts not working properly. There's probably something that you can do to fix that issue and come out on top and end up with a cool project. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment if you're having trouble with the project. And also, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe. I'll see you next time.